Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of FinTech of the Month, an initiative of Mumbai FinTech Hub, where we speak to the leading fintechs of the country and hear their story and learn from them. I am Hemant Shiksagar, EY India FinTech leader, and also your host for today. We closely work with Mumbai FinTech Hub on their Global Market Access initiative, in which we bring global companies or help global companies come to India and vice versa. Today with us, we have Anurag Sinha, co-founder and CEO of OneCard, India's best and smartest metal credit card. Welcome to the show, Anurag.
Thank you, man.
To kick things off, Anurag, would really like to understand the idea behind the genesis of the OneCard product that you have and the OneScore product that you have and the journey that you have had.
Yeah. So, we started this company in 2019, early 2019. And, the bigger opportunity we saw was how do we solve for consumer credit, opportunity for India. And as you know, many people are trying to solve it. We believe that, credit card is the right product to, solve the problem in this area, primarily because it is a very engagement oriented product. And it allows people to keep using it as and when they want. Also provide a very flexible credit. And this is an existing product available in the market. But the way we looked at was that the existing product have to be much more simple and transparent to consumers if we have to increase the market access for this product. I mean, just to quote some numbers, there are more than 200 million Indians having retail trade lines and credit bureaus in India. But only 30 million of them have a credit card. And usually this number is quite opposite in most of the markets. The reason is because credit card and mortgage are the two products which ensure longevity of a consumer in the bureau database, because these are the long-term product. Right. So that was an interesting problem to solve. The second thing is, and the reason why it is so, because digital payments is a newer story in India. I mean, I used to work for a bank before, been in this area for almost 17, 18 years. And in last 5 years, what we have seen in India is very different than what we saw in my initial 13, 14 years of life.
Right.
So I think we are in midst of a massive headwinds around digital payments, which is right from government, consumers, merchant community, markets, and it's just the right time, right place kind of opportunity. So but we also believe that for this product to become large, we have to solve for two things. One, we need to make sure that the consumer experience for this product is extremely simple and transparent, and more importantly, mobile driven, because that's where most of the consumers are interacting, number one. Number two, a lot of Indian consumers will have credit card for the first time in their life. So we need to make sure that people understand credit quite well. And that's why we actually ended up launching OneScore, which is our credit education product, much ahead of OneCard. So we launched OneScore in July 2019. And this is an education app which helps Indians understand their credit score and how to improve it. How are they doing it? What actions do they take in their life which affects their credit health? And that product has been quite well received. We have now close to 4.5 million users using it, with almost a million users using it every month. And OneCard is as a credit card in partnership with banks, wherein the entire consumer experience is built with mobile first, consumer. So the entire onboarding as well as life cycle management of the product is completely digital using a mobile interface. I must add here that, one is, of course, consumers have moved online. Even the regulators and banking community have also done a lot of work in the recent past to enable the experience. Because ultimately, for us to give a credit card experience, all of this have to be together. So whether it in terms of KYC being allowed to be done on a digital platform versus, you can onboard a customer, a lot of these things have come together. So I think we're in a good shape, and we hope to build it, contribute to expand the market access in a product like credit card, which will help a lot of Indians to start their credit journey, right, and manage it well.
Amazing, amazing. And Anurag, I was just looking at your entrepreneurial journey, and through that, I think one common tenet across all your products and initiatives I see is a deep understanding of the spending behavior of your target customer, whoever it be, right? So I would be very curious to understand your learnings and how it has transitioned over a period of time. And based on that, I think even your products are aligned with the way your understanding of the consumer behavior in terms of spending pattern in India is also evolved. So really curious to understand that.
Yeah. So actually, my banking career fortunately started in credit cards well long back, and frankly, this is 2003, and it was a very new product then. I had no clue about this product till I joined a bank, and we were fascinated by the amount of data we get to learn about consumer. I'm like, in terms of income, in terms of their spending. So there is, we of course know that a lot of banking products are built around past credit behavior and the income profile of the customers.
Right.
But your spending profile gives you, even better, insights about you. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're running a mortgage and you're working for a company, and you decides to switch jobs and you want to start your own startup. As long as you're paying your EMI, the bureau doesn't know that you have changed your job. But your credit card spends will tell you that, okay, you have changed. And like when I used to work for a bank, I never stayed in Oyo. I never took a cab because I always had a company car to take me wherever I wanted to be. But when I became entrepreneur, I started using Ola and Uber, and I started staying in hotels different than what I used to stay before. Probably I was staying in company guest houses before that. So I'm just saying that this is a very, very good indicator of consumer profile, and on the positive side as well. So imagine, let's say, in the early stage of the career, people get around 12 to 15% annualized jump in the salaries, and naturally your expenses also go up. In the first, in the age group from 25 to let's say 35, your lifestyle changes dramatically. You're single, then you started making some money, then you started investing, then you get married, you get kids. Your entire expense profile is changed.
Right.
Probably after the age of 35, it starts become stable, and all that. And so this much of learning is extremely, important for you to customize and personalize product propositions for consumers, both in terms of risk as well as features. Another important point to note is that 65% of India is below 30. So the lifestyle changes which we are seeing in right now is unprecedented. We've not seen such a large young population. The second thing is the aspiration levels of this population is very different than probably when I was at this age or when my parents were at this age. I remember, my parents used to, like, generation bought the house at the age of 45.
Yeah.
My generation bought at the house of 30, at the age of 32, 33. The younger generation doesn't want to buy a house at all. They want to stay on rent. I'm
Yeah.
like, we used to save money, that, okay, we getting married and we to go for honeymoon. And these guys, the younger generation right now wants to see the world before they get married. So I'm just telling that, the aspiration levels for this generation is very different. And that's where a product like credit cards or any form of consumer credit, bridges the gap between aspiration and affordability. And we're a young nation, we're still making goods, and this gap is extremely important because this drives the consumption cycle of Indian economy, which is the bedrock of our economy. So I think I would say this data is extremely important, not only for on the risk side, but also at the same time marketing side. It allows us to customize features and build things which are more important for that age segment and customize that, and which drives adoption. Ultimately, in the consumer business, consumer behavior is quite different compared to commercial behavior. Commercial behavior is more pricing driven, extremely logical thinking, while consumer behaviors are very diverse in nature. I'm like, a consumer in Mumbai is very different from consumer in Pune. Even within Mumbai, if you talk to a consumer in Bandra versus talk to a consumer in, let's say, in Borivali, is very different. They are same age group, but very different consumption pattern. So that's actually is the most fascinating part of my career. And that's why everywhere, even though I've spent some time in wholesale side, I keep coming back to consumer business because the amount of data you deal with and the kind of personalization and customization you can do is just unprecedented. I must also add that in the last 3-4 years, I'm old enough to see three cycles. And the way we used to do underwriting in 2003 to 6 cycle versus we are doing right now is very different. And primarily it is because of availability of data. For example, the way Aadhaar database is now fully proliferated, you have so much of identity databases which weren't there earlier. And so I personally believe in a very good place to grow from here.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good segue, Anurag, to the next question that I had. But before I get to the question, I just wanted to say you're absolutely correct. Every new building is built on a foundation that has been built just before that, and we are very, very lucky as a group of people working in an industry where the base infra is now seems to be ready, and then all of us are then trying to evolve and innovate around it. But from the segue point of view, Anurag, you just talked about a generation where they are more interested in experiences and having those experiences now, and which brings the credit card product into the light. And from that point of view, you have launched the one card product that you have, which has now more than, I think, 75,000 cards are in the market, which looks absolutely pretty. The card is beautiful, but so it's a clear differentiation there. But other than that, if you could walk us through the different features of the product and what it offers.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little insight about this product. I think we spoke about the size of the opportunity, and there are leading banks issue the cards. It's a few things to remember. One, first of all, credit card is not a very need-based product, unlike loans. For loans is a very identified need. You're buying something and you have to get financed. So it's a very identified need in a time period. Credit card is a classic, we call it an FMCG kind of product from banking that, you react to an ad, somebody tells you, and you want to take it like that. So onboarding for a credit card customer is extremely important. Many times I give an analogy of a life insurance product. Like technically everybody should have a life insurance, but everybody believes that I'm going to buy it tomorrow or later. It is almost like that. So one of the problem we identified for us to solve was a onboarding. How do we get customers when they think about the product and get to the product fast? Number one. Number two, an average credit card customer does close to 20 to 30 transactions in a month. You add reward redemption, statements, repayments, disputes. It's quite an engaging product. Now, for such a high engaging product, usually the sale happens through reference because people are happy and they tell others. But what has happened? Most of the customer engagement in today's market is happening on call center, and that was a very good channel probably 7-8 years back. Today, a lot of people do not like to interact over call center. They want direct to consumer interfaces, especially for a product which is such a highly transaction oriented product. Like imagine a case like loans. At the time of taking loan, you will be deeply engaged. Once the loan is given, the EMI just gets deducted from your account. Right. Unless you default, nobody's going to call you. So, but in credit card, it doesn't happen like that. So we identified that for a product like this, customer experience itself is a big feature to solve for. So, and that's exactly, we embarked upon, we built it, India's first credit card stack in the backend, which is a fairly complex one, get it certified by respective authorities, and then offer end-to-end experience for mobile. Now, as many banks offer, bits and parts of mobile experience for credit cards for the customers. But very few of them have such a deep consumer experience where everything is done over mobile. So by the way, as a company, I just want to clarify, we do not sell cards through any DSA, DST or branch. We are only focused on mobile first user experience. So naturally, we chose our niche and have gone deeper into solving for that. So how should the data appear in the app? How should people receive statements? How do you explain this to consumer? And remember that a lot of customers, credit card is a very new experience. It's not an old experience that people know about it. So a lot of explanation is required. So if you ask me, the biggest benefit for the customer is customer experience, which is completely digital. They don't need to call the call center. Everything is done in the app. That's one. Second thing is we give a 16-gram stainless steel metal, which acts as a good differentiation because a lot of people tell us that if you're a mobile-based company, why do you want to focus so much on a physical form factor? But the way, just to give you some stats, even today, which is we just went through a pandemic, we're still coming out of the pandemic, 40% of the transactions are still happening in physical world. So it is still there. So, and the way we believe that the two things which consumers carry with them, one is of course phone, second is the wallet. We want to be there in both the products so that we are closest to the customers, and both these platforms drive interaction over each other. Our average customer uses our app around 18 to 19 times in a month. The one card customer, he sees the transaction, he sees rewards, he redeems from them, he pays, he converts into an EMI. A lot of these happenings in the app. So, and that drives the preference for this card in his wallet. So it is linked to that. The third thing is, of course, we have solved a lot of use cases of to make it much more easier for people to use the card. Our reward points is right in the app. You don't need to call up a call center to know how many rewards you have. So another insight about rewards is, organic behavior of every customer is to start with cash. So anything you transfer from cash to digital, you need an incentive. So when you talk to customer in credit cards, they don't see reward as a benefit. They think reward as a right. Is that if I'm transferring my user experience from cash to card, I need to get this. So what we did, we have just simplified so much that for every transaction you make rewards, and you can redeem against your transaction in the app itself. No need to remember vouchers. There's no blackout period. And that's why our redemption ratios are very high. But, if you connect them to the previous insight I just said, that they think that it's their right, not the benefits. And once you crack this, they keep coming back again and again. And that's why our activation rates are very high. Spends per count is very high. The reason is because people love this. So we do offer, let's say, offers and benefits and discounts. We run that. But having said that, getting the core experience right was more important for us till now, which is like get customers to do everything over a mobile app. Have a very simplified, transparent rewards program, and give, of course, a high quality plastic which keeps remembering you, so that every time you take it out, you remember about that, and things like that.
Yeah, that's amazing insight, Anurag. And that also reminds me on the card perspective. You rightly said a lot of things are happening in the physical world. But another thing is, whenever you want a product is a product which is distributed more on reference rather than any other way, it is very important to have signaling, and especially for the target age that you're looking at, signaling plays a major role, right? Of course, as you mature, signaling plays a lower role. But at that point of time, you need a white earphone to indicate that it's iPhone in your pocket and nothing else. Similarly, having a really beautiful metal credit card anyways adds to that visibility of the product that you have. So I completely get that. So Anurag, you're also backed by the marquee names in the VC world, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs and the new age entrepreneurs who are coming onto the table, and everyone wants to go that way. So some insights or advice that you have for those entrepreneurs would be really helpful.
Yeah, so I'm like, I can tell you what worked for us. I think we chose a very large market opportunity to go after, and I think consumer credit is a no-brainer. There are lots of people trying to solve it. So that was the first thing for us to address. The second thing is spend a lot of time on the problem to get to the clarity what exactly we want to solve, because digital credit or other consumer credit is a very large opportunity. What portion of that you want to go after is extremely important, especially on day zero. I'm like, once you scale up, you will do everything. But where do you start? So that was so you would have noticed I gave very specific inputs that we just solve this,
Correct.
we can't do everything. That's one. Second thing is, I was fortunate to have very able co-founders and could, arrange a team quite early. So that was the second thing which came, went after us. We raised money quite early because one of the advice I would say, especially in fintech, and if you're going after anything to do with lending, capitalization is extremely important, because it is a long-term game. Lending is a long-term game, especially if you're partnering with banks and NBFCs. You need to ensure that you give a commitment to the partners that, okay, you're going to survive and you're going to have enough capital to survive through the cycles and things like that. So I think we were fortunate to explain the opportunity and the problem we were going after, and we had a good team. These were the two primary reasons why we could convince. Of course, it helped because Sequoia was our investor in my previous startup as well. So the ecosystem knew us. So it was extra benefit for us. But I would say things are opening up really well. I know currently I can talk about fintech at least. Larger ecosystem, of course, is also in a good shape. But especially in fintech, a lot of interest from investor community. They are looking after, they're going after good teams and good problems to solve for. And I would say, success breeds success. Given that a lot of fintech companies have scaled up quite fast and quite large, you have lots of talent available from whom you can learn and you can talk to, and things like that. So I would say, the ecosystem is in the right place. And needless to say, of course, initiative like Mumbai FinTech Hub and all, it helps people to, come together and, talk to each other. We just had a meeting in Pune organized by Mumbai FinTech Hub, and where we met and we were discussing how can we develop Pune as a important constituent to that, given that it has a twin advantage of having a tech resource pool and proximity to Mumbai, which is the financial capital of the country. Everybody who matters in financial world sits there. So, I think ecosystem is coming together. Personally, I am quite excited. In fact, I'm really impressed with the type of founders who are coming in right now and making audacious attempt to solve problems. It's really inspiring. So I guess investor community is very well, excited about this. Almost every large fund have a focus on fintech. So I think this is the best time to start. I would also leave out another insight, especially in lending, which is our area of interest. Consumer, rather any credit cycle follows a period-based approach. Yeah. And pandemic was one of the toughest tests we just passed, rather than the fag end of passing. Yeah. So I guess from here on, we should have a serious growth cycle. And every indicator you read about economy is at least inching towards that. I think this is the best time to start. Or probably 4 months back, it was the best time to start, whatever it is.
Anytime you start, I think Anurag is the best time to start. It is just important to start. But also you touched upon the pandemic and just also on the point of Pune. In fact, I lead the fintech practice for EY India, and I just made my move from Bombay to Pune. I have moved back to Pune to start operating from here, considering that I think geographical location is losing its relevance as we go forward. And when we come on that topic, Anurag, I also wanted to crystal gaze a bit, right? Because the world has changed a lot in last 1 year and so. So from a future roadmap perspective and strategic priorities, please let us in on your thought process of how you're looking at the future now.
So I would say, I think this remote work culture is going to stay, probably not the same way we saw in last 8-9 months. I think it will be a hybrid one, but I can tell you a lot of meetings which were completely unheard of being done remotely a year back, it happening remotely, by the way. I think also getting comfortable, whether we talk to our bank partners or let's say, other partnerships, investor. I think everybody is coming to the terms that, okay, remote work is going to stay. So in my first view would be that it's going to stay in some form. Now, we, of course, had completely remote work for at least 6-8 months, where even though financial services comes under essential services, but still we operated completely from home. More importantly, half of our workforce was operating from hometown, not even hometown. They actually had moved from Pune, went back to their hometown and things like that. And then we started resuming operations. Even today, so we right now operate from office. Certain percentage of workforce come. We have slightly peculiar things because data security is extremely important in a business like ours. Though we have solved through VPN and things like that, still there are some portions which we just can't do remotely. That's one. Second thing is, for an early stage startup, the interaction becomes within the team becomes easier because that's like a part of the culture we build. So my long-term view would be that we will probably have a hybrid culture where we will have teams operating from home. And more importantly, even the clients will operate more remotely than, insisting for every meeting in person. A lot of workshops with our bank partners happen remotely and things like that. So I would say, and it has a very, very long term effect because tomorrow, if you want to, let's say, our ability to do business has become much easier. and things like that. Now we are seeing so many government of departments working remotely. We have courts being done remotely. You can file an FIR remotely. So a lot of things, your entire compliances with, for the companies become so much of remote, so much of data is available for us digitally for us to verify things and things like that. So all in all, it will improve the business ease of business a lot. A lot means a lot, and also drop costs, which eventually gets passed on to end customers.
Absolutely.
Like, so I think we are. If you, I mean, if I take 3 to 4 year view, because beyond that it's difficult to take. I
Yeah.
would say this space will only accelerate,
Mm.
and things like that.
Understood. Understood. I had a two-part question, Anurag. One, I think government has started playing a larger role in actually supporting the ecosystem grow overall. So I just wanted to understand from you if and how government policies and initiatives have supported you in your journey. And the second part being, are there any specific points which you think could be a suggestion from you or thoughts from you of what could government do more in a way of supporting the fintech ecosystem grow further?
I think both the questions are very relevant and very important one. The first thing I would say, I think there is a growing recognition of startups or entrepreneurship as a sector which is contributing to the country was the first task. And this has been done all across, and almost every important person in the government is talking about it, recognizing them. That's like a first step. Because two things, it basically motivates a lot of talent to start, number one. Also, to attract talent pool. For example,
Right.
when I'm hiring a young engineer, I'm like, he has to convince his parents that he should be allowed to. I'm like, he's open to work in a startup, and this is a recognized area. So that's one thing. Needless to say, various state government initiatives are providing us initiative around, waiving of taxes or helping us register faster. There are, real cost savings which are being offered to startups, whether in terms of GST or in terms of, let's say, electricity bills being waived or our cloud bills being waived and all that. And so I think these are important, but I would say I think the larger activity I'm seeing, just like we are talking like about this, that let the ecosystem just come together. Frankly speaking, I would say the problem is just so obvious for someone to solve. As long as we can get a vibrant ecosystem to come together, I think we have the talent pool to solve, and which is exactly what government is doing. So I would we just need to keep doing things more, probably recognize more, do it slightly more organized and things like that. Coming to specifically to our sector, because our sector is heavily regulated.
Right.
So both government as well as regulator plays a major role. The good news is, like we are just moving towards in a positive direction. So like, I guess you guys are anyway part of some of these policies yourself. The way sandboxes are being done almost every area, whether it is banking, lending, insurance, wealth, which is good. Fintechs are being recognized as an important constituent in the ecosystem. I'm like, as being a regulated area, a large part of the business is done by the regulated entities. So, like in our case, banks or NBFCs or mutual funds, and fintechs needs that support for us to offer the end product to the consumer. Like in our case, we work with banks. So I think RBI and both government is doing a lot of effort to recognize this as an important constituent, and that's a good step in a good direction. We of course have to take measured approach because we are dealing with money, which is a sensitive subject, and things like that. We are dealing with a population which is yet to learn completely about financial literacy and things like that. People are still learning about how to manage credit in the sense. So I would say we just need to keep doing what we're doing. I don't have anything very big ask, because a lot of things which probably was really unheard of 5 years back have already been done. So I'm very positive about it.
Amazing, amazing. I think then it is enough to say that we are moving in the right direction. Let's continue in that direction. Anurag, it was lovely speaking to you. Thanks for this lovely session and taking out time on a Friday for this.
Thank you, Hemant. It was nice speaking to you, and all the best. Mumbai FinTech Hub is doing a great job. We should just keep doing this, do this more often, and do this get more people to get included in that. Okay, good, good.
Okay, That's it, folks. That's what we had for today. Thank you, Mumbai FinTech Hub, for this platform and for all the work that you have been doing for last 3 years. And congratulations for your 3-year anniversary as well that you just celebrated. So until next time, everyone take care and stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.